That's a wrap. Season 1 of the Story Partners podcast is complete. This has been such a fun experience, and we're excited to continue on with this podcast. We're learning as we go here, which has been equal parts fun and nerve-wracking, but we have really enjoyed launching this podcast, and we've learned a lot. So at the beginning, we had no idea what the format of the podcast would take, if it would be like an interview style or more of an immersive storytelling format. And it was a process of trial and error to kind of figure out what format we wanted to use. I actually recorded a couple of episodes that never saw the light of day, just in the learning process. But we have landed on this immersive storytelling style, and we both really love it.
I knew that I loved storytelling through making short documentary films, but I had no idea how fun it would be to tell these stories through podcasting. I like that you can explore more of the details of the story and get to know the subject's personality a little bit better.
I have really enjoyed this process as well. Honestly, at the beginning, I was pretty intimidated about starting a podcast because I felt like I knew very little about creating for this platform. But I have learned a lot in this season, and I actually really, really enjoy it.
Editing their story has been impactful to me. God has used their words to speak to me and to give me perspective. It has also been really rewarding for me to get into conversations with people who have listened to an episode and they're excited to discuss what they learned or how God encouraged them.
It's been fun to work with Walt on this project. We've both enjoyed doing more interviews together and just discovering something new together. And it's also been really cool to hear so many stories. It's been a big encouragement to us personally in our own faith. And so overall, doing this podcast has been really fun work. It's felt really meaningful, and we're just really grateful that God has led us into this new avenue of storytelling.
If you're new to the podcast and not sure where to start, Annie and I want to recommend some of our favorite episodes from season 1.
So personally, my favorite episodes in season 1 are episode number 1, which is called 746 is Not My Name. And that is a story of Billy and how he met Jesus for the first time in prison. And it is a really good episode. It's actually a shorter episode, but I don't know. I think it's just a really good story. So that's one of my favorites. And my other favorite is episode number 3, which is called You Want Me to Do What? And that is our friend Susie Brown's story. And I'm not going to tell you much about it. I don't want to spoil it. But it is amazing. And it is an episode that I continue to think about all the time. And I've gone back and listened to it multiple times since it released. And I just feel like it's had a huge impact on my own spiritual journey personally. So that one I can't recommend highly enough. I think everyone should listen to that episode. So if you haven't heard either of those, episode 1 or 3, definitely go back and check those out.
One of my favorite episodes is episode 6. It's called Below the Surface, and it's about Tim Brown's story. Tim was a fighter pilot during the Vietnam War, and he used to have this very macho idea of what it was to be a man. Tim's story is all about his discovery of what true biblical manhood really is. There's a lot of confusing messages about what a man is in today's world, so I think this podcast episode is a really important one. I also love episode 8, called Thank You, Wendy. It's the story of my parents' struggle with the death of my sister and how her death affected the lives of all of us. I think we can often see the chaos and tragedies of life and feel like it's all meaningless, but in my parents' story, God was using the mess for a much bigger story.
Just to let you know, we have decided to format our podcast into seasons, each one containing 12 episodes. So as we close out season 1, we just want to ask for your help with 2 things. The first thing is that we are currently collecting stories for season 2. So if you know of a great story that you think should be a podcast episode, we really want to hear about it. We know each one of you is connected to a whole network of people, and we know that God's working in all of our lives in unique ways. And so I am sure that each one of you is connected to fabulous stories that should be podcast episodes. So if you have a story in mind, if it's your own story, or if you know of a story that you think should be an episode, please reach out to us. You can find all our contact information in the show notes, and we really do want to hear from you. So please reach out. And the second thing is we want to ask if you would take just a moment to share one episode from season 1 with a friend. Because honestly, that is the best way for people to find out about our podcast, is just by a friend recommending it. I know for me personally, that's how I find most of the podcasts that I love, is through recommendations from friends. And so if there's an episode that you really love, that you that meant something to you, that encouraged you in some way, would you just really quickly just share it with one person and tell them it's worth listening to? Because we work hard on these episodes. We want them to get out as broadly as possible. We think they're worth hearing. And so we just want to ask for your help in getting them out more broadly by sharing them with your own friends. So yeah, help us find season 2 stories and share an episode. Those are our big asks for the end of season 1. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, our website. You can email us at annie@storypartners.org. All this is in the show notes, so check that out. Thank you so much for joining us for season 1 of the Story Partners podcast. We cannot wait to bring you more episodes and more stories of how God has changed real people's lives. So stay tuned. There's lots more coming.